My co-host this evening is Arnold Smith from Downbeat Magazine, and my guest this evening is Buddy Rich. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that the end of it?
That's the beginning of it.
For opening a good interview.
I'd like to ask an opening question. Who is Buddy Rich? What kind of a guy is Buddy Rich?
I'm Buddy Rich.
Right. What are you into besides? I know you're into karate. I know we can talk about that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're into your music, but other than martial arts and music, what are the things you like to do?
I like to think about how rotten most things are, and how insensitive most people are to sensitivity to the world. And this is public television, right?
Right.
It's how fucked up the world is.
Right.
Right? Every day, as you get older, you find out that the thoughts that you had as a young man were really unrealistic, and the people that you think are people doing things right for not just the music business, but for life in general, you find that most of those people suck.
Yeah. Well, we all caught a raft of the president gone down in the last couple of years.
We haven't had a president in 12 years.
It's true enough.
You know. But that's we can get into that later. You just caught me at a very bad moment tonight as I came in here tonight, and it takes a little while for the juices to finally settle down, but they will. But as far as Buddy Rich is concerned, right, I'm interested in the longevity of good music and a quick demise of bad. When I speak of bad music, I speak in not single terms, I think in general terms of what's happening to the music business. And the people who are doing things to keep it alive, and then the people who are bent on destruction of good music and good places to play.
When you talk about good music, you're not categorizing it in...
I never categorize music because music is music. As a matter of fact, there are only really two categories of music, which I've said in 1,000 interviews, and that's good and bad. But when people start talking in terms of music, how do you like rock, how do you like country, and how do you like top 40? You know, it's so senseless because the people who are saying these things are the people who are actually destroying the very thing they're talking about. Record people, so-called recording artists, if you will, which I don't necessarily believe they're recording as artists. And I don't even think that what we're doing down here at this place is to try to keep some taste and dignity in music and in the presentation of music and also in the people that we present. Since this place has been up, we've had only the best people, my feeling. From Stan Getz to Dizzy Gillespie to Joe Williams to Mel Tormey to Jackie and Roy, the Rawls. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's my only taste in music. But I feel when I start to think about booking the younger attractions, the so-called million sellers, the exorbitant money that they demand, and the things that they demand besides the money, which is really, it's past being outrageous.
I know, I was in that line promoting stuff like that.
Well, then you know what I mean. And so
6 cases of beer.
It isn't that, but a limousine for each foot.
Right.
How fucking nuts can you be? I mean, people who got millions and millions of dollars live like human beings. They don't have to impress by having people pick them up at airports and having your head carried. I think that's outrageous. And so when I say dignity, I think the people who have come up through the ranks and who have made stardom an interesting and integral part of their lives, not just the front of being a star. It's a matter of knowing how to behave and a matter of knowing what is in good taste, the choice of music, the choice of presentation, and attitude. I find this missing in Zeppelin, David Bowie, Essex, people like that, who are really not into anything except being totally freaky.
It's a show.
Well, it isn't a show. A show was a Broadway show.
Right.
The Wiz is a show. Sherlock Holmes is a show. these other clowns that go out and do this other thing with the glitter and you know, it's okay to be a fag.
Exhibition.
But say I'm a fag, you know. But don't say in the guise of entertainment, look what I can do. Remember, that's if you put makeup on in the evening. That's obviously what you like to wear in the daytime. Say it. I can understand that, and believe me, I don't. It's just not a thing to put down. I put it down when you have to walk out on the stage and do it and collect $40,000 and $50,000 at the end of the night, while great artists don't make that in a year.
Yeah, I was talking with Thad Jones and Mel Lewis last week, and these people, in my opinion, are good, top quality musicians, and they gotta struggle.
Well,
They make a living.
I don't like to think of the word struggle. You see, it isn't a struggle. The only time you struggle is when you're not working and you're hungry. That's a struggle. But when you've attained a certain amount of success and a certain amount of stature, you're not struggling anymore. You've attained a certain stature, right?
I'm talking about struggling monetarily.
Well, the true artist, the true great jazz artist, and we can go back to Kid Ory or Louis Armstrong up to the present to what's the name? Freddie Hubbard. You know, you can go through the whole system of music. The thing that I resent mostly, you know, I've said this to Arnold and I've said it to a lot of people. When you take out all that's inside of you, right? You go in and do a performance at Madison Square Garden, and you take out $50,000 or $60,000. What do you put in to the business in order to get that reward? You know, I can go back 5 or 6 years, I bet you can't name me on one hand some of the groups that sold millions of albums. And who today pumping gas in my car. You know, Sinatra's still around after 40 years. Tony Bennett, Jack Jones, and Mel Torme. You go down the list of people who have staying power. They deserve the $50,000, the $60,000 a night because they have given their life, they've given their art, they've given their body to perfect an art.
Well,
But when you talk about an 18, 19-year-old kid who goes in there and sings out of tune, is totally inarticulate, he shoves a microphone halfway down his larynx and screams into it, and you say, what did he say? You know, say, what a beautiful lyric. That's a lie, isn't it?
yeah, I think that. Yeah, but
Wait a minute. What about the people that sell them?
They're whores. We all know that.
My opinion, your opinion, our opinion, was that these are the young people they can manipulate.
No, I don't think so. The money manipulates. The people don't. I mean, I can take you and him and the two cats sitting over there and say, look, here's a piece of music. You don't understand how to read it. Just read the words, and I'll put a sound system behind you where they won't even hear you, and we'll have a hit record. And I'll give you $30,000 for the date, and the company will make $30 million. You see, I'm talking about the people who tell you to record things. You can't take an artist and put him in the studio and say, here's something that really stinks. But if we do it right, it'll be a hit. If you have any sensitivity at all, you reject it. You reject the suggestion, the tune, the lyric, or whatever, because you know within yourself that it's bad. The man who does the production, the man who sits in the big chair, the big executive in back, and says, it doesn't make any difference what he likes, you know, feed him whatever he needs, broads, junk, whatever it may be. And later on, it'll be cool. We get another kid after that, which is what happens to the Beatles. You know, I think the Beatles were the first healthy, fairly good musical thing to come on the scene. Before that, Bill Haley, you know, was ridiculous. And Fats Domino was fat. And the other guy wrote a love letter in the song, which, you know, it made no sense at all.
Nick Kenny wrote that.
But, well, look where he is.
Right.
But it just seems to me that the people who have stature always stay right at the forefront. Basie, Herman, Kent, Goodman, all the people who have played for years and who have the pulse of the taste of the people, but not the projection of the record companies. I mean, Benny Goodman still records. And if a record company, if Columbia or whoever he records for, would put as much money behind his record as they do behind Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Benny Goodman would have the hit record. It's just a matter of who the people behind think should be made important at that particular time. And that's, you know, there's Ella Fitzgerald, and that other Disney broad who became the #1 singer after opening her mouth and throwing up, Olivia John.
Right.
I mean, Ella Fitzgerald is all the singers in the world. Peggy Lee, and you go down the list. But all of a sudden, Olivia Newton-John is the number one singer. Now, isn't that sick?
You know, why are they putting the dollars there then, rather than putting them behind the
Oh, that's a very simple answer to that, man. Since everything lately is youth oriented, here's a face that's young, can't sing, can't do anything, which is young. And so if we say enough things about a young person to a lot of young people, they'll accept it. You know, you could take Golda Meir, right? And give her a hit record and say, we're going to shoot this record for all the old people, and all the old people buy Golda Meir's record. Because it's just selling. It's a big money thing. It has nothing to do with art. This club has to do with art. We are only concerned with giving our audiences what I like to feel and what I think they feel is dollar value. They pay a certain amount of money to come down here and hit the best, and very few people walk out of here dissatisfied. That's the secret.
Yeah, but let's talk about Buddy's Place for a
Well,
minute.
let's talk about Buddy's Place as an audience, right?
As an
You
audience.
can come down here any night and see guys your age and younger, and guys my age and older, which means that we run the gamut. We can play for you.
Well, good music people want to hear, whether that you're old or young.
Okay.
What was mentioned to me in terms of, I know your place is not a large place and you've got to get in some revenue in order to pay the bills and so on.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of people who can't afford to come and hear this good music here because the prices are really too high for someone who's.
Do you know there are a lot of young people who can't afford the $2 to go to Shaper? Think about that.
That's true
There are a
too.
lot of people in New York City who can't afford to go to see whatever they want to see in Central Park during the summer because they don't have that $4 to give. So, is it really expensive to go to Central Park, or is it expensive to go down to Buddy's Place, or to go to the Bottom Line, or Reno Sweeney's, or any other joint in town? If you've got the money, nothing is expensive,
Right.
and if you've got no bucks at all, breathing is expensive. So you can't use that as a barometer.
You think the talent will bring the people in no matter what the price?
Well, I went to a concert 2 Saturdays ago to see Dizzy Gillespie. It was a tribute to Dizzy Gillespie at Avery Fisher Hall. Yeah, and I'm busy. Avery Fisher Hall was sold out. Not just to people who are older, people who wanted to hear Dizzy Gillespie. And they paid. And it was $8 or $10 or whatever it was. You come down here and spend whatever you spend down here. You not only get the best big band, whether it's my band or Thad and Mel or Count Basie or whoever it may be. You not only get that, but then you also get probably one of the best or number one singers in the country. Like we have Joe Williams in here now. And next week we've got Jackie and Roy coming back. And then later on we got Stan Getz coming back. We got Lou Rawls coming back. When you give people their dollar value, they'll come out. I'm disappointed when I go to a dollar movie and it's a rotten movie. I want my dollar back. But I'll go and spend $100 if I know I'm going to get at least $99 worth.
Jazz has been growing lately. The rock business doesn't know which way it's going, and they're looking in all directions now where music's going to end up going. Jazz now is coming to the forefront, yet we're losing a jazz station here in town.
Which, by the way, we should make mention of. Buddy is one of the co-chairmen of the advisory board of that.
You see, what's strange to hear you say is that jazz is coming back.
Never left.
Jazz never left.
Right.
We left.
The audience left.
Right.
Jazz never left. Jazz has been here, man. It's been growing ever since Lester Young passed away, and Charlie Parker, and Art Tatum, and people like that we'll never see again. But at least we'll have people who grew up listening to them and will probably project their own personalities into playing. And that will keep jazz alive.
Have you seen a lot of good young people going into jazz?
I have
that are
16
good?
of them in my band.
They're good. Well,
They're great.
You said one thing. I want to pick up on something you said to carry it forward. You mentioned casually in a phrase, jazz is here, jazz is the coming thing, and rock business doesn't know where it's going.
He didn't say rock music. He said rock business.
Right.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. It's a business. And I don't feel as angry about the kids as I used to feel, because at least they've learned more than one chord as it progresses today. But I can remember before the Beatles, and I suppose I'm one of the first people who would see the Beatles because they played. I was living in Las Vegas 10, 12 years ago, and I think it was their second or third appearance in this country. And I took my daughter Kathy to see the Beatles at the convention hall in Las Vegas. And I was destroyed by it. I couldn't believe what I'd heard. I'd heard nothing, because 10,000 kids screamed the moment they were approached on the stage, and for the next 20 minutes or so, because that's all they played,